Welcome back to episode number 16 of the Grounded Brand podcast. Brandon, it's nice to have you back, buddy.
What are you talking about? I've been here. I was the first one here today.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just not last episode, right?
Just not last episode.
Yeah, just not last episode. So
If I'm not mistaken, I gave y'all like 4 days to pick a date to do this on, and y'all decided to do it on the day I was leaving for town. So
yeah,
it's not like I didn't try.
strategy behind everything we do, man.
I guess so. Hey, maybe the viewership and listens went up. Who knows?
I have no comment because I can see it.
That's fine.
So we've got a couple of life updates we're going to give everybody. Who wants to go first, Colton or Brandon?
Go ahead, Colton.
Okay. Yeah, life's been hectic lately. Not moving away, still be involved in the podcast and everything like that.
Will you?
I will. I know it seems far. For those who are familiar with the Huntsville area, I'm just moving from Owens Crossroads to Athens, so pretty much the other side of town. But
And a lot farther drive to the podcast studio.
you say that, but you guys have a long drive. It's probably about the same distance.
We'll see.
I'll just take highway.
Okay.
Yeah. But I feel like my life update pales in comparisons to someone else's.
Who's that?
I think we know who it is.
Yeah, so I would say that too, Colton. So my wife and I found out that we were going to have another kid. Another child is on the way, so we're super stoked about that. It was definitely not planned, but we know that God's got it planned out for us, so we're excited about it. So it's pretty fresh to us, and got a baby due the day that NWTF show opens up, so I couldn't have planned that any better.
All the listeners who know what NWTF is just went, oof.
Yeah, so that's our biggest show that we do every year. And so when my wife told me, the shock was, definitely not expecting another kid for sure. We've got a 21-year-old, a 19-year-old. We have Bailey, who is 6, and so we thought we were finished having kids, but apparently not. Like I said, it's God's plan for us to have another one, so we're excited about it. We don't know what the sex is going to be yet, boy or girl, but either way, we're excited now that the shock factor is over with. But I remember when she first told me, I was sitting in my office, and I was like, wow, I had to go home. I'm not gonna lie, I had to go home just to process it. But anyway, so after she told me, I was like, okay, well, what's the due date? And she said February 13th, and I'm like, wow, okay, that's the first day of the show starting.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't know how Drew's going to take this.
Man. We'll make it work.
Yeah, so yeah. Anyways, that is some life news. So,
Well, congratulations.
Congrats, man.
I appreciate it.
We're happy for you.
Thank you.
I'm glad that y'all are going to name the baby after me. I'm excited about that.
Wait, I was told it was after me.
So I've already thrown out a couple of names. I like them. They're kind of family names. KB is not on board, or at least I don't think she is. Bailey's got a few names too, and KB shot those down real quick. So who knows, man? We hope to find out what the sex is going to be. Hopefully this coming week.
Nice.
We should be able to find out.
Yeah.
So we're excited about it, man.
That's
so
awesome.
we got a lot of stuff to get prepared between now and then. Bailey's going to have to move rooms, so we got some decorating to do for her. And then hopefully if it's a girl, we won't have as much to do downstairs in the nursery. So, yeah, we're looking forward to it. And then I'm excited that I get to extend my youth season out for a few more years. So even
Good
better
point.
news.
I didn't even
Yeah.
think about that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
pretty excited about it, man.
Yeah, that's exciting. I remember when you called me. For those who don't know, I'm very gullible. Almost to a fault.
Very.
Yeah.
And Drew and Brandon have caught me on it a few times. And there was for a while there, I did not believe them.
Yeah.
And
I don't think it was until Carrie Beth posted on Facebook that we were having another child.
yep, that's exactly what it was.
And then even pulling up today, because she only posted that maybe like 2 weeks ago, maybe. And just pulling up today, Colton's like, I'm about 99.9% sure you are having a baby. And then Carrie Beth's like, I got proof. I'll whip out the
ultrasound.
The ultrasound. Yeah. But yeah, man, we're excited. We're ready. Well,
We're excited
we're not
for you.
ready. We're excited though.
I will say, I think it's crazy that you went to the lengths you did to miss even more podcast episodes and WTF.
Yep.
Yeah, my timing's terrible.
Always trying to get out of work, ain't he?
Man, ain't he?
I mean, I think the listeners would probably agree with y'all because I think this is episode number 16 and I missed 3 of them already. So we know who the dedicated employee is, or teammate, Colton. He
Thank
won't
you.
miss anything. So
I appreciate
16 for 16, isn't he?
he's doing good, man.
That's
that.
right.
That's it.
Yep.
That's it.
He's hitting every shot he's taking. So
Yeah, we'll talk about my bonus later. Anyway, so on this episode, guys, we're going to talk about our most memorable hunts.
Yep. Yeah, we usually have guests and stuff on for the podcast, but we thought it'd be good just to kind of look back and go over some of the hunts that kind of that I've reflected on over the past couple years, I guess. And just, I guess every hunter has a hunt or two that they can go back to and relive and just think upon. And, I'm pretty excited about this episode. So
Yeah, it's going to be a great episode.
Yeah, me too. Tell a little bit of stories and
yeah,
talk a little turkey, and hopefully.
I don't know how we're going to add value today, but we'll try to figure something out. Maybe they'll take what we did wrong.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
true.
Definitely do that, but we're going to relate to people.
yeah,
That's
So that's
absolutely
that's
true.
value in itself.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
You know,
Yeah,
they're going to find out that we're all alike.
that's it. But yeah, man. So, Drew, why don't you start it off for us, man? Tell us your most memorable turkey hunt, and then we'll go to Colton because I know he's got a bunch of them.
I got tons.
That's
Yeah.
right. So I've got a couple stories I'd like to tell. I'll tell one. It's a most memorable hunt, and it's hilarious because turkey stories and turkey hunts never go as planned ever.
No.
And so I don't even remember when this was. This was probably like 5, 6, 7 years ago, something like that. And right at the beginning of the season, I had been out doing some listing and had heard a couple gobblers together on this one farm that Dad and I can hunt. And so we kind of had a game plan, knew where birds were, but the thing about it is that they'll always kind of bounce around in this area. They're not going to roost in the same tree or the same bench every
Right.
afternoon or evening, but they're going to be within several hundred yards from where they were the previous morning. And so we've got a good idea on where to break daylight at, but we know we're going to have to move. So first morning, which is opening day, turkeys end up being up above us, pretty good piece. And we actually made a pretty good sized loop. By the time we got up there, birds were already on the ground, and they went down the mountain where we, obviously started at.
Yeah.
And so we were like, all right.
Well,
and
that's kind of frustrating because most of the time in the mountains, in my experience, they seem to pitch down and then go up the mountain.
right. Yeah.
So,
And so we're kind of like, and the shut up, had hands
Yeah.
with them early season, flocked up.
Yeah.
So, is what it is. So we lick our wounds, call it a day, head to the office, work a couple of hours.
yeah.
We'll get them tomorrow. Come back the next morning and get up there. And they were roosted a little bit different spot, maybe 100 yards difference from where they were, not that terribly far different. And they ended up doing the same thing that next morning, going back down the hill. And so third morning, they're in completely different spot, but we're like, all right, they've been going down the hill. So, we set up below them. Well, this time they did come down the hill, but they went more to our right. Every day had hands with them, you know, and after probably an hour, maybe an hour and a half on the ground, they were just shut up and you couldn't find them.
Right.
They go into the black hole that all these turkeys go into. And so fourth morning, Dad's like, what are we going to do? And I said, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to sit on this point right here that then turkeys have come across the last 3 mornings, and we're not going to say a word.
Uh-huh.
And so we get in there, pitch black dark. We sit down right on this one little knoll that I'll be daggum, them turkeys had come across every single morning the first 3 days of the season.
Yeah.
Like clockwork, they start gobbling. They pitch down. We didn't yelp. Here they come. We're like, all right, it's game time.
Yeah.
And we're in mature hardwoods, a lot of oak trees. just beautiful mountain terrain, wide open. You could see, 150, 200 yards through the woods, typical North Alabama mountain habitat. And the sun comes up, man, and is kind of hitting us in the back, and these turkeys are out in front of us coming to us. And all the hens come down, and there's probably like 11 or 12 hens, so a pretty good bit of hens. And neither Dad nor I realized how many gobblers were in this flock, but there was 5 strutters.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all just strutting side by side, full strut, coming through these woods, and the sun's hitting them, and it's just come over the mountain. So, you're getting the angle of the sun where, it's just beautiful. I like literally one of those things that you dream of as, a photographer or turkey or whatever, just being outside, like the sunlight's right, the sound's right, the weather's right. And it's like, okay, like beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And turkeys are coming up there. And they get probably 35, 40 yards. And all the hens dropped off to the bench below us. They go down the mountain. And the gobblers are kind of following. And at this point, we had started calling because we were nervous that the turkeys were going to follow those hens. And so we were like, all right, if we can just keep them up on the edge of the bench, we can work them around a little closer. I mean, obviously they were already within shotgun range, but we wanted them as close as we could get them. Mm-hmm. That tactic was not working. They were gobbling, but they weren't coming closer. They were following the real hens.
Right.
And so, close enough. I said 35, maybe 40 yards. We get two birds in the open and count down, shoot on. Dad and I shoot on 4. A lot of people say 1, 2, boom, and they shoot on 3. Dad and I have always shot on 4, 1, 2, 3, boom. I don't know why. It's just what we've done. And, we count down 1, 2, 3, boom. We both shoot, and we both missed.
Yeah.
All 5 turkeys flew off. And we were just looked at each other like literally we stood up to both go run and get our turkey, and we're like, we're froze because there's not any turkeys flopping. They're all flying off. And we just kind of looked at each other like, what in the world just happened?
Yeah.
And, man, it's just one of those hunts that I'll never forget. Because it was so beautiful.
Yeah.
How often do you have 5 turkeys in beautiful habitat with the sunlight hitting them that are gobbling and being responsive and get within shotgun range, and then 2 guys that have turkey hunted for, 20-something years for me, and then my dad probably, 40-something years for him, and then we both just whiffed.
That's got to be frustrating, man.
That
made for a good story, though.
It made for a good story.
Yeah.
But that's one of those hunts that will forever always be burned in my mind.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily a successful hunt in bringing a bird home, but it is one in, hey, it daggum took me 4 days to realize they were, or 3 days to realize they were going over this point. Hindsight 2020, I wish I would have realized that beforehand. But sometimes early season turkeys can be hard to hunt.
Yeah.
And you have to rely on tactics like that. So if they've done something 1, 2, 3, 4 days in a row, put that in your toolbox.
Yeah.
And try to pull it back out.
That's right.
Later on.
Yeah. That's a good story, man. I hate that you weren't able to walk away with a bird, but the fact that you got that memory with your dad is pretty cool.
Yeah.
That kind of goes hand in hand with one of my hunts that I remember the most of. Was with my dad. My dad and I don't hunt just a whole lot. We did when we were younger, or when I was younger, but not so much anymore, just because he has a different way of hunting than I like to hunt. He likes to post up on a tree, and I like to get after him, And either way is fine. It's whatever works best for you, whatever you like is fine. But we were hunting a club one day, and it was one Saturday morning, I believe it was. It's probably 10 years ago. And he knew where some birds had been roosted out, or where they like to hang out, or to hang anyways. And so we got up one morning early and went up there, and the birds were gobbling. I don't remember them gobbling just a whole lot that morning, but they were a little vocal. At least we knew where they were at, And so I guess it was probably 8 o'clock or so. We had already walked up the mountain, and we were probably, probably 8 or 9 benches up from the bottom road where we were at. And the birds got fired up, and they started gobbling pretty good, but they were not moving. Mm-hmm. They were staying exactly where they were. And Dad was like, hey, this is like 8:30, I guess. He's like, let's just sit here till 10 o'clock and see if we can get these birds to come up here. Well, anybody knows the way that I hunt, that's like I'm not down for that at all.
No,
That's gonna you mean to tell me I got to sit here for an hour and a half to 2 hours and wait on these birds to come up here after they leave their hens? No, I'm out on that. But he talked me into it. I think that was around 8:30. I think by 9:15 I was over it. And I said, Dad, I'm getting up and we are walking down this mountain and we're gonna close the gap, because they were several hundred yards away, you know. And so I finally talked him into it, but he's like, man, I think we really need to stay where we're at. I was like, listen, I'm going down. You can stay up here if you want to. He's like, no, I'll go with you. So I was like, all right. So we get walking down the mountain, and we had not heard the birds gobble probably, 15 or 20 minutes. That should have been sign number one to sit your butt down.
Yeah. They've been gobbling good, and all of a sudden they shut up.
Yeah.
Like, so, okay.
Yeah. So
hold tight, boy.
Yeah. So anyways, we're walking down the mountain, and I guess the birds just happened to hear us walking, through the leaves.
Yeah.
And we had not done any calling either. And this joker, he gobbles, and we done walked past him. He was up on the bench up above us. And I'm talking about just out of eyesight. So, I mean, he's like within 100 yards of where we are. And Dad and I just freeze. And so we're not in a good position. We're like trying to find any tree that we can set our butts up on as quickly as we possibly can.
Yeah.
And so typically we always like to face down the mountain and try to call the birds up to us. That's what we've always done. Well, here, they're on a bench above us. And so we're actually having to face, and the way the mountains are, you're kind of sloped downhill. So we're kind of facing uphill up against a tree or whatnot. And, we'd like to hunt side by side if we can on the same tree.
Yeah.
That way we knew there was two birds, but just the position that we were and the way we were walking down the mountain, it just did not lay out that way. So he was probably sat down on a tree that was probably 15 yards to my right, and I'm up above him just a touch. And anyways, just about the time we got sat down, I always sees these red heads coming in. And I'm like, holy smokes, man, this is not what I expected at all. I figured we would walk down the mountain, we'd close the gap on them, we'd sit down and start calling to them. It just didn't happen that way. And then the whole time I'm sitting there thinking, I know when this hunt is over with, Dad is going to be like, I told you we should have stayed on this thinking tree that we was on. I knew he was going to say something about that. But anyways, we got sat down, and here come the turkeys. And, I'm not really in a position to shoot that well. But these birds come down, and like I said, they're on the bench above us, which is probably like 30 yards. And you got one bird that's in the lead. He's strutting, and then you got another bird that's behind him. And he was going in and out of strut. And the bird that was leading, he came within like 10 yards of my setup. But my goal and my hope was, okay, if we can get this lead bird down here on this bench, Dad and I will both be able to get a shot on these birds. Well, the second bird that was behind us, behind the lead bird, I could tell he was starting to get a little nervous. He could smell a skunk. He didn't know exactly what was going on, but I could tell that he knew something was up, and these birds had already separated probably by 10 or 15 yards or so. So we're sitting up against a tree, and these birds are coming over coming down to us. And like I said, one of them was in the front. He was pretty stoked. I mean, he was committed. He was coming. He done heard us walk in and heard us calling earlier that morning. And so like I said, Dad and I were probably 10 or 15 yards apart. Not ideal setup. But my goal was for both of these birds to come down to where we could both get a shot on them. Mm-hmm. And probably after these birds being on the bench with us for probably, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes, they were going in and out of strut. I could have shot at any point during this whole time, but like I said, my goal was for us to be able to double. That was something we had never done before, and something I was hoping we could get done. But anyways, I realized that the bird that was in the back, he smelt the skunk, and he was fixing to leave out the way that he came. Mm-hmm. And so he did. He tucked his wings, and if anybody's hunted long enough, when you see those wings tuck, you better get on them if you're going to get on them. And not only that, I could tell at that point, there doubles out the window right now. It's not going to happen. So anyways, typically when I like to shoot a bird, I like for them to at least be 20 yards out in front of me, 25, 30, somewhere around there. The way this setup was, I was not going to have that opportunity. Like, it was going to be a 10-yard shot at the farthest point, And so, so that's what I did. I shot, and he's uphill from me at this point. So I'm shooting uphill. And so when I shoot, the bird hits the ground. And I'm like, dude, this is an awesome hunt. These birds came down here, gave us a show. Dad wasn't able to kill one, but I was able to kill one. So I stood up, and about that time, the bird that was with this bird, He takes off flying. Well, right behind him goes this other bird that I shot that I thought I killed off flying too. And so I'm like stunned. Meanwhile, Dad's over here like unloading his shotgun on these birds. And so why not? I'm going to fire a few off at them as well too, because they're flying over our head at this point.
Right.
You know? And so after it was over with, I'm just sitting there. I look at Dad and he's like, what happened? I'm like, I don't know, man. I missed. That's all I can tell you is I missed. I said, why didn't you get one? They flew right over you too. He's like, yeah, I was not expecting you to miss so. I was like, well, I wasn't either. I don't know. I was frustrated. I was mad. And it didn't help Dad saying, I told you we should have stayed up there where we were at.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, yeah, it's too bad that we missed, or I missed a bird, and then he missed as well too as they were flying away, which I didn't honestly expect him to kill one at that point. But you know, when you're in the moment, you do stuff like that.
That's right.
But yeah, man, just looking back, that was a pretty cool hunt, and I wish we could have doubled, but it just wasn't meant to be that day. But the only thing I can figure that happened on that hunt, for one, it was such a close shot. You know, 10-yard shot is nothing when you're shooting a shotgun. Yeah, you think of a shotgun pattern coming out, but when you're that close, you know, your room for error, the margin there is like very slim. It's almost nothing.
Yep.
You know, so I could have pulled the trigger. You know, I could have lifted my cheek off the gun and shot high. But what I ended up doing was I did shoot high.
Yeah.
I was able to go back and I peppered the daylights out of a tree that was behind the bird, and you could tell based on where he was standing at and where that pattern hit, I shot high is what ended up happening. But yeah, man, that was a cool hunt. It was a hunt that I wish would have ended differently, would have had a different ending, but it is what it is. But it's a memory that I'll always remember, even if we did miss, you know.
Yeah.
So
that's the first story that popped in my head when we talked about doing this episode was obviously the one I just told. But
yeah.
And then, you know, your first story, same thing.
Yeah.
Both missed. Isn't that funny how two of our most favorite hunts we missed turkeys on?
It really is, man.
So is it really truly all about killing?
It is not, man. It's about making memories and who you're with and the stories that you get to tell afterwards.
Colton, see, so it's not all about killing a turkey, man.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm such a seasoned turkey hunter that I have so many I can choose from.
And not killing too. I mean,
and not killing, yeah.
Missing,
you know, I really, it's for me, it's about the friendship.
Yeah.
No, you know, we talked about doing this episode, and obviously starting this year, I don't have many. But I will say the story of us going to that field and going through all that briar. I mean, and then, so I told this in a previous episode, but on my first day, really, because we took a whole day, my first day, we hit up a few different spots, but we get to this one, and Drew goes ahead of us and ends up calling us and saying, hey, there's two in the field, so, you know, sneak around, come up and meet me. So we did, and to get there, I should have been a precursor to what was going to happen, because Drew's all of like, you know, 5'11", and he's, you know, skinny, man. He can fit through some holes. And Brandon and I are like trying to drudge through all these briars just to get to him.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember who at this point said, hey, I think we should walk around this way.
That would have been Brandon. And I said, no, you don't want to walk around that one. He said, I think we need to. I said, okay.
Well, eventually we're going to do an episode where we just talk about the featherweight line and talk about how durable it is. Because we were all wearing it, and we went through, I mean,
we put it through the briar patch.
Time and time again.
Yeah, for sure.
And this wasn't briar patch like blackberry.
No.
This was briar patch like greenbrier and roses.
Yeah.
So if you know the difference, there's a significant difference
tough.
in those two types of briars.
I still got scars from that trip.
I bet. So we end up walking through this briar patch, and we cut around to the backside of a field, and at this point the two turkeys had strutted off into the backside of the woods, and so we went to that backside, and we said, well, let's wait, and, you know, they'll come back. We saw 3 hens walk out, and during this time, we had kind of decided to loop back to where, you know, on the other side of the field, so maybe when they came out, we would we would be able to call them over. And I made my first bonehead mistake because we
Several that day.
yeah, I made several. I'll never slam a car door ever again.
It'll turn your diabetes pump off.
Turn it down.
Yep.
Leave it in the car.
No,
next
that
time.
that was a separate time.
Oh,
That was a separate time. You guys want to? Brandon acts all nice and sweet and stuff on this podcast, but boy, you hear one beep in the woods and you would think the world is coming apart. Anyways, so I made my first mistake because
You decided to go hunting with us. That was your first mistake.
well, maybe. But I wanted to move, or no, I started crawling over and I stood up. And right when I stood up, these 3 hens just take off running. Mm-hmm. And what would you say? 100, 150 maybe?
Yeah, they're
yards.
probably 150.
Yeah, 150.
So they were far enough away. And I've, obviously through Drew and Brandon, I've heard these stories before, but I not doing it before, wasn't even thinking. And yeah, sure enough, these took off. One ended up staying in the field, and the other one that really ran off.
She was trying to beat her 40 record. She beat it.
She might have beat it.
She ended up in Mississippi.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, she ran far. We ended up not seeing anything that day, but that was memorable for me because Drew and I were sitting next to each other on this tree.
Yeah.
And I start hearing like a buzzing, and I'm like, oh, well, it's probably just like a, mosquito or something like that. And so I look down, and there is a snake sitting between Drew and I. And and I'm not saying like, oh, it was like, 10 feet away, sitting between us, like halfway up our legs.
Y'all were on the same tree.
We were on the same tree.
Yep.
We were maybe 6 inches apart from each other. I mean, and this snake was just sitting between us. I'm convinced that if we hadn't seen it, it would have gone over one of us.
Probably would have.
I think it was just a black racer, something like that. There was no patterns on it. It
Right.
was just black. So, there was no issue either way, but I jumped. And when I tell you I jumped, and then I had the look of death from Brandon coming over to us too.
I didn't know who to point that death look to, either you or Drew, because I'm like, okay, well, Drew is supposed to be mentoring you. You're on the same tree, and he's allowing this right now.
Well, Drew, at the same time, I jumped, and Drew jumped as well, and I was like, snake. That's all I could say was snake.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he saw it go off, so I'm glad he saw it.
Well, once I realized what it was, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
you got to pass.
You would have had the same reaction.
I would have. I don't like snakes.
No, it was not. It spooked me for sure. Got my heart racing. I think really after that was probably the moment where we were like, we're done.
Yeah.
We're done at this spot. So we left, and to me, I mean, that whole day was very memorable for me because it was my first day, hunting. Obviously I have other hunting stories. I would say probably the most memorable one for me, hunting wise, is growing up in Florida. The wild hogs in Florida just run rampant, especially in Southwest Florida where I'm from. And I used to work on a horse farm where we had a horse and stuff growing up, and so I would shovel the stalls and stuff. We did that in exchange for the boarding for the horse.
Yeah.
And the owners of the property were great. They became like family to us. And my father's not in my life, and at the time, the owner's husband was like a father figure to me. And so we went out. He took us hog hunting, because really in Southwest Florida, like that's really the only hunting you can do. Like there's not a big deer population there. So we went hog hunting and went with my entire family, and we went out to this cow farm one day, and we like trudged through probably a mile worth of just swamp to be able to get back out into the back field. And the owner of the cow farm told our friend that like, hey, there's a ton of hogs out here. Like you're gonna see one. So we go out there, and we go out right before morning, and sure enough, as soon as the sun comes up, man, it's just, you can hear them, and they're loud. Wild hogs are loud. And sure enough, they saw us and heard us. And with hog hunting, it's very, very quick. And so we're backed up against the fence line on this pasture, and this hog comes running out, and all I hear is my name and then shoot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So I find it, and I've got a 30-30. I think I had a 30-30, and it's hauling across this field. And I shot it, and when I shot it, it hit its leg. I didn't get the cleanest of shots. I think I was like 13 at the time. And so I just like put my crosshair on, and I just shot. Hit its leg, and it blew the leg in half. Well, these hogs, like, they are
tough.
They're tough.
Yeah.
And so it ran up into some palmetto brush, and it was still alive. And the guy we were with, Scott, was like, well, we still need to go. We need to go get it. Like, we're not going to let it suffer, obviously. So he goes up to the palmetto brush, and he goes to grab it by its back legs to pull it out. And when he does that, that's when we found out, like, the leg was blown in half.
Yeah.
So, like, he almost could have just ripped, like,
the leg off.
half the leg off.
Dang.
Well, when he goes to pull it out, it turns on him and goes to bite him.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
And so he was like, whoa, like, I'm not going to
Get bit by a pig.
Right.
Yeah.
So it ran back into the palmetto brush. And, you know, in hindsight, we probably could have just, like, backed up a little bit and shot it in the palmetto brush. I don't know why we didn't. But he goes in and he pulls it out again, and just like an alligator, like, puts his hand on the back of his head to, like, you know, essentially stop it from biting him. And I won't go into the details of what happened after that because it was gruesome. But I've got a picture with the hog that I'll edit in the episode. But I've got a picture with the hog, and I'm grinning ear to ear, like, I'm smiling. But this hog looks like I threw a grenade at it.
Yeah.
Because when I shot it, it blew the leg off. We ended up having to cut its throat. And I mean, it was
Dang.
It was rough. It was not like a great experience, but all of that happened within about 10 minutes.
Wow.
And so it's fast. I mean, it's definitely not like turkey hunting where, you know, you have some time, you can sit or you can walk around. I mean, it's quick when it happens.
Right.
But that was memorable for me. My family's got a tradition that when you kill your first, you get christened, and, you know, you get the blood smeared in your face and everything like that.
That's right.
And so that happened, and I was glad to be able to do it with my family that day. And it was memorable. It was quick. So that's probably my most memorable.
That's cool,
outside
man.
of turkey hunting.
I've never been on a hog hunt before.
It's wild.
We're pretty fortunate that we don't have that issue up here.
Yes,
or at least where we're at
very,
anyways.
Very.
Yeah, a lot of people want them until they have them, and then they realize how devastating
They can be to your land, crops,
Yeah.
food plots.
We
turkey population.
Yeah.
when I was in high school, I got a grant to do like an environmental project. It was like a scholarship thing, and part of my requirements was I had to do an internship. Well, I did an internship with Florida State Parks. And when I did that, on like my last day of the internship, they were doing surveys from the helicopter. And so I got to go up in the helicopter and like see the surveys that like the
damage that they've been doing.
Man, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why you can go out in Texas and like
Shoot
get a
by the
machine
helicopter.
gun.
Yeah.
And, yeah. It's wild.
That's awesome, man.
It is.
Well, hopefully you'll have some more stories to talk about this upcoming
That's right.
turkey season, man.
Yeah. I'm sad you won't be there.
Oh, I'm going to be.
But
Lord willing and KB willing, I will be there.
Oh yeah.
No, I definitely feel like my season I probably won't be able to go as often just because of the timing and everything, but
Right.
I'm definitely going to be out there.
we told you that y'all just need to go up to Nashville a little bit early.
Yeah.
And she can have the baby in Nashville. You can still be at NWTF.
Maybe we'll just do a seminar on giving birth. Nah, but yeah, I don't think that's gonna work. I think I'm gonna be out on that. Crazy thing is, I already booked a room, already paid for the first night. So if anybody needs,
If anyone needs a room
yeah,
at NWTF, let Brandon know.
yeah, let me know. I'm sure I can get you a discounted rate. But
Yeah.
But no, man. Yeah, turkey hunting can be fun, especially when you're spending it with friends. Honestly, a lot of my times that I go hunting, I am solo hunting. Maybe just because it's just trying to get a couple hours in before I have to go into work or, but whenever you do have the time to go and spend time in the woods, it's always a great opportunity. And so just really try to cherish every moment you got, especially if you have friends that you're going with or kids that you're carrying to the woods with you. Bailey being able to go on her first turkey hunt last year, that was another hunt of mine that was very memorable, just for the simple fact that we practiced and, we didn't just wake up one morning and go out there. I wanted her to get the whole experience. So we did scouting, let her listen to birds, and went and shot the shotgun several times before the season started. And then when she got the opportunity to finally pull the trigger on a bird this year or last year, she was able to do that after 10 minutes of her deciding whether or not she wanted to shoot it or not. She was able to get the job done. And then another, memorable hunt I had was with her again this year. We hunted all year. She killed a bird last year, her very first time she ever went in the woods with a shotgun.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool. And then this year, she wanted to kill another bird. And the goal this year was to kill a longbeard. And, really didn't honestly have an opportunity till like the last week of the season in Tennessee. We had, I think it was 3 or 4 longbeards come in, and she got an opportunity. She didn't get an opportunity on that. We had one coming to us and had a bunch of jates come in. And with it being the last day, I'm like, okay, baby, you can just, I was mad. She was mad that her opportunity had gone. So I was like, all right, if one of those jates give us an opportunity, I'll let you pull a trigger. But she got scared. And so, it's like all that hard work we'd put into it. And she had the opportunity and she just didn't want to pull the trigger. But, it's just spending time in the woods with your kids is pretty special. And any time I'm out with her or with my son's had an opportunity to kill several birds, and he has killed 3 or 4 birds on hunts that we've been to. But he wasn't 5 years old when he did it, though,
Yeah.
And I think he was probably, 9 or 10 when he killed his first one. But, yeah, man, I just enjoy being in the woods, and you never know what's going to happen. Every hunt could be one of those hunts that
That's right.
you think about for the rest of your life,
Yep.
That's true.
So,
Well, guys, I don't know how much value we added
no,
to your life, but
I'm sure we related to some folks, though.
oh yeah,
So,
we got to enjoy some stories.
mm-hmm.
So, hey, before we go, over the next few weeks, we're going to be doing some episodes where we actually talk about the gear that we have. We know kind of it's hard to think about, but the holidays are going to be here before we know it. And if you got a turkey hunter or yourself in your life that you just want to, buy some new gear, we're going to go over all the different products, what we believe makes our product stand out.
Yeah.
And we're going to share that with you guys. So that's probably going to be our next few episodes. We'll go over the vest, the featherweight series.
Mm-hmm. Cool thing about the featherweight series, it's multi-purpose.
It is.
Early season, bow season's just right around the corner, so that's something that could definitely be used for the early season bow hunters.
Yeah.
It's lightweight, very breathable. Something you're not going to get very hot in. So
Yeah,
definitely.
I know. I was talking to our buddy Josh Anderson the other day, and he said the same exact thing. He's like, "Can't wait for bow season. I'm ready
That's
to
right.
break out that featherweight stuff."
Nice.
That's it, man.
Yeah. So, just know that's coming. As always, guys, we have an audio version and a YouTube version. So go and check it out wherever you want to get your podcast. And like I said on the last episode, we have exclusive savings for all of our podcast listeners. So if you go to the website and then use the code GroundedPod at checkout, you'll save 10%. And so that's only exclusive. Brandon, I'm sorry we announced that when you were gone, so you couldn't get mad at us.
Well, can I use that same discount code?
You can, man.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome.
Actually, I think I made it where it doesn't work for you. You got to pay full price.
I know where everything's kept at.
That's
I know
true.
where the key's at.
That's true. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys for listening to this episode. As always, check us out online, and we'll talk to you guys in the next one.